Hey everyone, Kyle once again, and welcome back to the next movie review. And since I just reviewed Jim Carrey's last film, Dumb and Dumber, and not long ago I reviewed his other one, The Mask, three of the films that came out in 1994, which cemented his career as a big movie star, And so the last one he did in 1994. Which came out which was the first one that came out that started his career off, and that is of and I forgot to mention, 1994 marks the 30th anniversary of 1994. So I forgot to mention that when I was doing Dumb and Dumber, the 30th anniversary review of Dumb and Dumber. So I'm going to say 30 years later, it's still Dumb and Dumber is still a classic. It's still a great comedy. Love with Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels, It's still a fun comedy. Other than one scene though, but other than that though, it's still a enjoyable comedy film. One of my favorite Jim Carrey films. The last one I'm doing is of also the 30th anniversary of his other classic comedy, which I also love as well. Which I would say I do enjoy more than Dumb and Dumber. I do. And so, if I put my top three favorite Jim Carrey movies, I said it before, I would put it's Dumb and Dumber, and it's close though. I would probably put number two, this film, Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, and I would probably say number one is my favorite. I'm sure my brother would say this is his favorite as well, and that is of The Mask. Yeah, it's always a toss up between the three of those, because those are, a lot of people say their favorite films are probably either those three. But like I said, 1994 was the big year for Jim Carrey, and that's what made him a movie star with those three movies. I reviewed The Mask, so I'll probably say it's my favorite Jim Carrey movie. Love it. That's one thing me and my brother still love. We can agree on it. We both love The Mask. I enjoy Dumb and Dumber. And this one here, Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. And I would say yes, I love Ace Ventura. It's another classic comedy, and I really enjoyed it. I just the premise of it, that an actual pet of a pet detective, right? But Jim Carrey as Ace Ventura. He may be a goof, maybe some goof on in this movie though, but it turns out, Ace Ventura, he's actually a good detective. He really is. He does have smarts of a detective. That's why he's so good at his job. He's detecting all these little details and stuff, right? He's actually good at his job. And once again, Jim Carrey, he's just full. Well, before this first one that came out though, but I'm just saying though, just like Jim Carrey at this time in his era, with his other films, he had energy. He was full of energy. He had charisma. I enjoyed his demeanor. All the faces, especially in this movie. It's like, do I have your number? Alrighty then. I mean, he was just so full of energy, And that's why, especially in the 2000s, it was kind of, getting a little bit dwindling, I mean, there's been a couple ones from the 2000s I did like of his. I mean, I like Bruce Almighty. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, I'll probably say that was his best film of the 2000s, I would say. I enjoyed Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Number 23... Although, granted, it was a completely different role for him, starring in more of a psychological thriller. I give credit to that part, him trying to take on a completely different role outside of his comedic zone, like with Chris Rock, when he starred that Saw spin-off Spiral, right? But the thing is, number 23, it was, despite the different change in roles for him, though, number 23 was still, not quite as good as I remember it. So, but still, just during the 2000s, and then the 2010s, he just kind of Well, 2014, Dumb and Dumber 2, which I hated. But then, a few years ago, right behind me, he kind of captured of himself from these movies to, if you can remember, right there, Sonic the Hedgehog as Dr. Robotnik. You know, I enjoyed him. He knocked it out of the park as Dr. Robotnik. I enjoy it. I enjoy the first two Sonic movies, and I look forward to the third film. You know, when he brought to Dr. Robotnik was like the same. He brought out his old self from this time of era from the 90s. That's what he did. You know, he came back with his old self as Dr. Robotnik. He brought his old self from this era of the 90s. That's what I enjoyed about him, you know. And yeah, first I was skeptical of Dr. Robotnik, but I was wrong about it. He knocked out of the park as Dr. Robotnik. And I look forward to Sonic 3. So I enjoyed the first two films. Jim Carrey was an absolute blast to watch as Dr. Robotnik. But anyway, getting back to Ace Ventura. Like I said, he's very good at his job as a detective. Like, the first time we see him, the opening scene, we see him as pretending to be this postman box, and he's completely wrecking the box. Delivered to this guy who has this dog, who he's going to return it to. And then the guy finds out it's a fake, and then he damages Ace's car, and he's like the side view mirror. Warning, assholes are a lot closer than they appear. Hey, can you give me a help back? Give me a little help back there? Oh, righty then. Just the faces he makes, you know, just like with his energy. It's like, this is the Jim Carrey that we all grew up loving, you know. Although, granted, I never watched when before he was famous. He starred in the show in Living Color. You know, it was kind of like the SNL spinoff as a way, you know. But that way help get him started with starring in that in Living Color. But so, and the whole story is that I thought it was kind of a unique, you know. People say it's kind of a weird premise, though, but I thought it was kind of a, well, compared to nowadays, nothing is original no more, story-wise or film-wise, you know. But I would say original idea, I would say, because Ace Ventura lives in Miami, Florida, and the football mascot of the Miami Dolphins, named Snowflake, is kidnapped. And so one thing leads to another. There was a kicker for the Miami Dolphins by the name of Ray Finkel, who missed pretty much an easy field goal at the Super Bowl, and after that he got ridiculed, crucified, up the ass every which way. Everybody hated him, and basically he is this all big revenge scheme against the Miami Dolphins quarterback Dan Marino. So, okay, I'll probably say unique, original. I would say. I cut there because the reason why I'm doing this is when my nose keeps on running down, you know. So I keep on doing this, so I had to blow my nose for a second. Sorry. But I was saying, story-wise, kind of like, in a way, original idea, you know. And so, after the Dolphins kidnapped, you have also good supporting cast members. You have Courtney Cox. I think this is just before she started in the show Friends. Shortly before she did Friends, I think. I think she did fine in this as well. And you have the villain. You have Sean Young, as this also plays a cop as well, like who's a lieutenant higher up, right? Sean Young, of course, you know, from Blade Runner. And I forget what there was a movie. It was a thriller, I think it was, that Matt Dillon was the bad guy. I remember because by the end of the movie, Matt Dillon was chasing Sean Young, and they're running across the railroad tracks, and Matt Dillon got hit by a train. Sean Young. I forget the name of the movie was, but that's what I remember vividly from that ending of that movie, though. I forget the name of the film was, but Sean Young was in that though. But I know that she's more famously starring in Blade Runner. But and he's got everything, all these clues, and he shows how good he is at his job. And when he's at the police station, you have one of the cops, crushes a cockroach, right? And they think because they're trying to make fun of it, but actually Ace Ventura basically fires back at them saying, "Good question, Guado. First establish the motive. In this case, the killer saw the size of the bug's dick and became insanely jealous. And then I lose 40 pounds. Parker and his wife!" And then you have rapper Tone Loc. I think it's either Tone Loc or Tone Loc. I think it's Tone Loc. I think it was how it was pronounced. Tone Loc. And he's also plays another cop. And then you have Jim Carrey stand next to him with his ass next to him, moving his ass cheeks around like it's speaking, right? He's like, "Excuse me, I'd like to ask you a few questions." And then Tone Loc's like, "This is not the time, Ace. If Einhorn sees you talking to you or your ass, I'm history." "What's the matter?" Once again, make his ass talk for him. He's like, "What's the matter, Emilio? Afraid I might make a stink?" See, this is the Jim Carrey that we all grew up loving. I mean, just like that, that just made me laugh. This is the stuff like this, that humor that made what made us love Jim Carrey. Like I said, I'm glad I saw that old him when he played Dr. Robotnik in the Sonic movies. I'm glad that he brought that old self back out in the Sonic movies. Just he was just being, like you said, being full energy as Dr. Robotnik. Oh, give me a big freaking break. or like I said, the scene where he's talking to Neil McDonough in that one scene where it's like, "Are you in charge here?" "Nope, wrong. I'm in charge." I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Sorry. What was your name again? Nobody cares. Yeah. But and then thinking that he has a lead, they go to this. Him and Courtney Cox go to this rich guy's place for holding a big party, and the rich guy is played by Udo Kier. He's a German actor. He's been in various other films, especially horror films. Like he was in the first Blade film, little role of End of Days. I've seen him in other stuff too. Udo Kier. So he's like this. He's this rich guy. I think he owns the Dolphins. I forget though, because he had a Dolphins ring. But I know that he was a rich guy. So, then you had he sneaks off to the bathroom, and then before when they're at the door, he's like, "Hey, Courtney says, I swear, if you do anything to embarrass me in front of camp," he's like, "Oh, what, this?" All the impersonations he does, it makes what made Jim Carrey very unique. Like comparison to Robin Williams. Robin Williams was unique in his own way. He did his own unique impersonations of stuff, right? Same with Jim Carrey. It's like when no one can replicate any of these comedic actors, because you can't replicate their own unique personality, right? I don't know why I just did that there, but like you can't replicate Jim Carrey's comedic tone or his demeanor or wherever his shtick, or let alone you can't mimic Robin Williams' shtick, right? They're so all unique in their own ways, I miss Robin Williams. He was a one of a kind comedic actor. Jim Carrey too. Like I said, with his own comedic spin. Which actually, that's a kind of surprised me. I'm surprised they never actually did a comedic film together. Which now I think about it, Jim Carrey and Ron Williams, that would have been a great comedic duo. You know, that would have been such a great comedic duo. Jim Carrey and Ron Williams, yeah. Sadly, that never happened. I don't know. I don't know if they ever do it though, because it'd be a clash of personalities though. But we'll love to see that. But so he sneaks off to the bathroom, and then you have the Mission Impossible theme playing, and then he finds a tank which he thinks Snowflake's in there, but it's actually a great white shark. And he comes out all his clothes are torn. He finds out that Udo Kier is clean because he has a championship Dolphins ring that was not missing a stone because he found a stone. Oh, because before that, when he was checking out the Dolphins tank at the football field, right? He was doing at least the impersonation of Star Trek, you know, like doing like the communicator, like Captain's log, Stargate, whatever, you know, and where it takes, I got to, Mister. Boop. Or he's like looking at this little hole. He's basically staring at the camera like this close. He's looking at something, right? He's like imitating like McCoy or Scotty, right? I'm a doctor, not a pool guy, you know. I know, like in more of good impersonations he does. But he finds in the filter, he finds like this rare yellow orange stone that came from one of the Dolphin championship rings. And you get this little montage of him investigating each player, you know, who has a championship ring, see if each one of them is missing a stone, right? And yeah, with the song playing, I think it's Aerosmith that it was the song that was playing during this montage, right? So, but none of them has any missing, and they found out a guy that worked with Courtney Cox committed suicide. Played by Troy Evans. Troy Evans is an actor. Only did like small supporting roles. If you recognize him, probably seen him in other films. You recognize him. I have, you know. He was a supporting role in the first Under Siege. Of course, I remember he was that cop named Charlie in Halloween 5 that Michael Myers hanged outside the window. Although the funny stupid thing is in the Halloween 5, he has a shotgun, right? But he doesn't use that though. He just uses his pistol. Well, stupid anyway. But he was in that though, and a couple of other films I would see him in. So, but he committed. Well, they say he committed suicide, but Jim Carrey, being the smart detective he is, he thinks that's not a suicide; it was murder, because they say that the witness heard a scream, right, and when he closes the sliding door to the balcony, it's soundproof. He's like, ah, ah, ah. And it's like, yeah, it's like, yes, I have exorcised the demons. And Sean Young as Einhorn the cop. Or another funny dialogue he says that Sean Young says to Jim Carrey's like, "Listen, pet dick, how would you like to make your life a living hell?" And Jim Carrey goes, "Well, I'm not ready for a relationship yet, Lois. But thanks anyway." And so, and then he comes to realize there's another player, but the kicker named Ray Finkel, who also got a ring, but since he missed an easy field goal, he was ridiculed. Like I said, got shit on basically, but he got himself a ring too. So he goes to visit his hometown where his parents are living, and the mom takes him to his room, where it's completely filled all around the walls, which was actually kind of a creepy scene, because all this stuff is of Dan Marino, like him crossed out, or a photo of him with a knife in it, or all this other stuff, and they put on the projection on this movie projector of that game, and just how camera pans in to Jim Carrey's face as it slowly pans in, and then it slowly pans into the movie film with the guy holding the sign saying "Revenge," and with the music that was playing, the score by who did the score for this? Era Newborn. This how the way the score and that scene progressed, it made the whole thing look like a very creepy scene, you know. And then Ace realized that Dan Marino's going to be kidnapped next, so two of the bad guys, they take him, they give a car chase, and of course, unrealistic though, but when they shoot at him, Jim Carrey catches the bullet with his teeth, you know. Of course, they make it. Of course, any film was unrealistic, of course, though, but they just had to throw in, like, oh, how cool Ace Ventura is, he can catch a bullet with his teeth, right? And then his car takes a big, rolls over, tumbles, right? And then when it lands upright again, Ace is like, whew. So, and then we get to him pretending to be as a mental patient at this mental institution where Ray Finkel went to, right? And it's like how he's wearing this big tutu, his hair is all messed up, and I wish I had the DVD though, because but they showed him in that tutu outfit though, but actually I moved my DVDs out of the. In a certain scene, I did some reviews where in the back room where all the DVD shelves are. I took everything out of there, so that's why I haven't seen me have any hold the DVD of this film or Dumb and Dumber, if you're wondering. So usually I always show what I have right here, though. But I'm doing a little change. We're doing a little changes in that back room downstairs. So oh well, no biggie. But then he realizes all this other stuff. He finds more evidence. And then he comes to realization that Ray Finkel is Sean Young. Or is Lois Einhorn. So basically, Sean Young is basically... the character is basically a guy originally. And he goes crazy because earlier she kisses him. And he's like, Einhorn is a man! Oh, I kissed a man! He did this little thing where he is like plunging himself, puking, or then he strips him naked and burns his clothes. And then he follows Sean Young to this warehouse where Dan Marino and Snowflake are there. And it was actually now the DVD I have has no features, and I don't think it will have any features because, but I had to look it up though. So apparently there were some other couple of violent scenes actually. For instance, with this scene here, when he's in the warehouse, those two bad guys that kidnapped Dan, they're right here. Jim Carrey's up here on this other part, holding this giant not an anchor but a hook, and he just lets it go. And as it swings towards the bad guys, it cuts away. It cuts away to the TV, right? Turns out, actually, well, I don't know how Hook could do it though, but it said that he decapitated those two guys with that hook. I say, I'm like, decapitate them? Okay, I think this is what happened because, like I said, there's no features. They don't have to explain anything, so I had to look the stuff up though. But if that's the case, I'm like, that would've been very dark, you know. I mean, Ace Ventura just decapitates two bad guys. That's why when it was swinging like this, and then it all of a sudden it cuts away to the TV, you know. But if that's the case, I'm like, that's pretty dark, you know. Okay. Never think that something like this would be that violent, though, but... and then that's when Sean Young thinks he has a gunpoint, then gets the little fight he has with Jim Carrey. When all the cops get there, and Ace and Jim Carrey explains the whole entire case, right? And so thinking that Ray Finkel is a woman now, so tries to pull on her hair, thinking it's a wig, or opens her shirt up thinking, oh, since she has breasts, oh, that surgery could have been done over the weekend, and then rips her skirt off, thinking to find what there. And then Dan Marino noticed something, whispers something to him, and he's like, well, Jim Carrey's like, well, if the lieutenant is indeed a woman, as she claims to be, then, my friends, she is suffering from the worst case of hemorrhoids I have ever seen! It shows that she has a dick because, and everyone's like, oh, that's why Roger Protector is dead. He found Captain Winky. And everyone was like, oh boy. And Jim Carrey's like, thank you everyone. You've been a wonderful audience. I'll be here all week. Be sure to tip your waitress. Hey, loser. And then, just in time, back for the Super Bowl game, the Dolphins against the Eagles, and then Ace Ventura gets in fight with the Eagles mascot because earlier, because he sees this white dove that this rich guy put out as a reward for $25,000. We see him earlier. He was on the rooftop with a bird. He fails to catch it. He sees it right there. He's about to grab it, but then the Eagles mascot shoos it away, and he's like, idiot! What? You realize what you've just done? You just cost me 25 grand, Polly. Yeah? Blow me. Really? And then just Jim Carrey just starts punching the Eagles mascot, and then of course also something with the music, the other part of music too. He's fighting like down, 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 and then the announcer says, puts on the big screen now, tells everyone, we have a whole applause to the man who saved our beloved Snowflake, Dan Marino, and the lover of all animals, Mr. Ace Ventura. And it's like a freeze frame's like this. Man, I love Ace Ventura. It's definitely why I would say it's my second favorite Jim Carrey film, but it's just I love The Mask too. It's just with these that and Dumb and Dumber, how showed how what Jim Carrey was just so full. He was so full of energy and charisma and just full of comedic life, And the films would have made him a big hit superstar, The next year after that, 95, he was in the big hit of Batman Forever as the Riddler. The next year, 96, he starred in The Cable Guy, directed by Ben Stiller, and also starring with him and Matthew Broderick. Now, don't get me wrong, I like The Cable Guy. I do. Don't get me wrong, though, but as box office wise, though, since Jim Carrey he was on a roll, and when The Cable Guy got released, sadly it underperformed, Some people were kind of skeptical on The Cable Guy. That's why the film kind of underperformed at the box office, though. But then after that, though, he kind of recaptured his star status, with Liar Liar. That was a big hit, What are you doing? I'm kicking my ass. Liar Liar, and then The Truman Show. That was also a major hit as well. I forget. Was it You, Me, and Irene? Was that 2000, or was it before? Or was that between 98? I forget though. Because I forgot to mention the director. Because the director of this film, Tom Shadyac, because he directed Ace Ventura, and then he would later work with Jim Carrey again with a couple more times with Liar Liar, big hit, and then later on with Bruce Almighty, another big hit for Jim Carrey. And then he also directed the Nutty Professor with Eddie Murphy. He also directed Patch Adams with Ron Williams. Dragonfly. What was Dragonfly? Oh yeah, that was a thriller film that starred Kevin Costner, which that bombed the box office too. Yeah, I guess Tom Shadyac, just stick to doing comedies, not thrillers, because that film Dragonfly, it was panned by critics and it was a failure at the box office, a bomb. So after that, he did Busamaya, which that was another big hit. Then he fell back again when he did Evan Almighty. That was an even much bigger flop, So, but Ace Ventura, Bad Detective, I enjoyed. Liar Liar, Bruce Almighty, Patch Adams. I would kind of say I was not a fan of that, despite that I love Robin Williams to death, though. But Patch Adams, I gotta give that another watch though, because I remember I was not really being a fan of Patch Adams. But Tom Shadyac, I enjoyed Ace Ventura, Liar Liar, Bruce Almighty, but regardless, he did a good job with this film. But Jim Carrey, he just rocked the house with as Ace Ventura. Like I said, his charisma, energy, his demeanor, like the personalities he does, the faces he does. Because I just like make his ass talk in front of Tone Loc. Excuse me, I'd like to ask you a few questions. Here I go again. Nose starts to running again. Jeez. Just all the stuff I thought was everything that Jim Carrey did was hilarious. I mean, the supporting cast, like I said, Sean Young was good. Courtney Cox was fine. Tone Loc, yeah. Fun, cool to see Dan Marino playing as himself. The only time when the Miami Dolphins was good when they won two Super Bowls with Dan Marino as the quarterback. But other small members like Troy Evans, Udo Kier, other fun, and the sequels. It's of course the sequel that came out a few years later that made much more money than the first film, Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls. I like the sequel. Now something of course they tried like with Dumb and Dumber. Like the sequel wise, first of all, Dumb and Dumber 2 is a lot worse, though, don't get me wrong. Although I like When Nature Calls, don't get me wrong on that either. But of course, they try to go a little bit more on the humor, of the raunchy humor, so to speak, Like, for instance, like when he's in this mechanical rhino, it's so hot in there, he strips naked, and then he goes out of crawls out of the rhino's butthole, thinking like it's giving birth, right? And he's butt naked, Or when they're like spitting, all the spitting or loogies are being tossed around. But I still like When Nature Calls, regardless. I think it came with the next year, yeah, 95, same year when we did Batman Forever. So yeah, it was obviously it made more money than the first film did. And of course, in 2009 came with a direct-to-video sequel, which was Junior. I think it was Ace's son. I saw that once a long time ago. It was god awful. And then even after the success of the first two films, then they came with a cartoon series, which ran for 3 seasons from 95 to 2000. I'm like, it really ran that long? I thought it lasted only a season. I only vaguely, barely remember that cartoon series. I just vaguely or barely remember that cartoon series. It's like the same thing with The Mask. The success of that film. When both Jim Carrey movies were successful, they gave a cartoon series. The same with The Mask. It's like I barely remember the Mask TV show. The cartoon series. I barely remember those. I saw it only just vaguely. I could vaguely remember little bits of it, though, but I don't know what the premise or episode was, though. But I just remember some of the imagery of the cartoon series, both of those. Yeah, and then I heard later that they were trying to do a third Ace Ventura for Amazon because of the success of Coming to America. I'm like, please don't do a third film. I mean, you take, let's say, Ace Ventura Jr. is a third film, but I'm talking about actual number 3 Ace Ventura. Please, I was like, please don't do a third film. I know that Jim Carrey is doing the third Sonic film, but at times it says, he was considered about retiring from acting, I just hope they don't do a third Ace Ventura film. Like, nothing's been mentioned since then. That was like 2021, a few years ago. Nothing else has been mentioned since then, so hopefully that's the case. Hopefully it doesn't get made, so seems positive right there. But regardless, though, regardless, though, Ace Ventura is another classic comedy. A favorite of Jim Carrey's, mine. Probably the second favorite, I would say. Like I said, from the store, I think it was kind of, like I said, unique and original. I'll probably say that. Probably say that's weird though, but I mean, Miami Dolphins, the team, the mascot gets kidnapped. The former kicker wants revenge against the quarterback. And then Jim Carrey is actually good at being a detective, you know? He's actually good at his job. Despite the weird quirkiness he gives some people to see him as, though. But he's actually a pretty good detective. And so, yeah. Jim Carrey, so this is the Jim Carrey we all grew up loving, you know? Like I said, full of energy, charisma, energy. Probably said that twice, but it is the personalities, the impersonations he gives, demeanor. A lot of the dialogue I enjoy. Some, what was it? What was it? And like some of the creepy scene with when they goes in the attic with all the stuff around with Ray Finkel, you know, that was pretty creepy. It was a creepy scene. Or the dark thing, like they probably cut away, they deleted that with actually decapitates those two criminals, but it cuts away though. And that's true. It's like that's pretty dark, you know. And there's everything with Sean Young, Courtney Cox, Dan Marino, Tone Loc. It was a very fun film that I absolutely love, and that's why 94, 30 years later, both either The Mask, Ace Ventura, Dumb and Dumber, you know, are still a great Jim Carrey classic comedies that we all enjoy. And probably a lot of people say that those are his best movies, you know. But, you know, other ones, like I said, Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind, I really enjoyed that film. It's probably one of his better movies from the 2000s. Bruce Almighty I liked. Like I said, from his golden era from the 90s, like from Liar Liar, The Truman Show. I even like The Cable Guy despite, you know, they say it underperformed, yes, but I still like The Cable Guy. His role as the Riddler in Batman Forever. Even the sequel, Ace Ventura 2, When Nature Calls, I like, despite a couple of the humor went a little more than they wanted to, which I was not my cup of tea though. But still, I still like When Nature Calls. But yeah, Jim Carrey, he's always been in such a great. With him and Robin Williams have been my favorite comedic actors. And like I said, and I'll probably say one of his best films he's done since then was the Sonic movies. The series there. He knocked it out of the park as Dr. Robotnik. I enjoyed his performance. He captured the remnants of his old self when we did from these movies into Dr. Robotnik, you know? That's why one of these why I enjoy the Sonic movies. Jim Carrey was one of the big positives as Dr. Robotnik. He is Dr. Robotnik. Another classic character he can put under his belt, you know? He was like his old self when he plays the character. So I look forward to seeing the third film, you know? And plus, you know, many fans wanted to know from when they first saw Shadow the Hedgehog at the end of the second film, fans wanted Keanu Reeves, and that's what they got. They got Keanu Reeves to voice Shadow the Hedgehog, you know? So that's going to be pretty cool, you know? I mean, Idris Elba was an interesting choice as Knuckles, you know. Ben Schwartz was good as Sonic. But what was the one who voiced Tails? I forget. She did it from the video games though. But pretty cool, you know. And Keanu Reeves as Shadow the Hedgehog. I can't wait to see how he plays that character. But like I said, Jim Carrey, probably one last hurrah for him as Dr. Robotnik. Or probably, like I say, I think he retire if the script was good enough for he was going to do. He probably would. I guess it was. Since he's going to do it one last time as Dr. Robotnik, so hopefully. But anyway, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, thumbs up for this. I really love the film. I just always loved Jim Carrey. He's been such a great comedic actor. Also, I forgot to mention. You know, a long time ago I reviewed How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I mean, that's what the first time he was trying to give off of. All the stuff he was doing, his persona, his shtick always gives, you know. And of course, imagine the difficulty was him and all that makeup and wearing that suit, you know. The difficulty for him in that. But yeah, I gotta stop now because my nose just keep on running. So sorry about that. But regardless, though, 30 years later, 30th anniversary of Ace Ventura, and same with Dumb and Dumber. I forgot to mention that though, but great, and of course including The Mask too. Great Jim Carrey comedies, love them all. Yep, 30 years later, they're still great comedies. Love Ace Ventura, you know. But if anyone hasn't seen it, please check them out. I highly advise them if you're a fan of Jim Carrey. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next movie review and so forth, and we'll see you next time. Later.